Some snake venoms can stop your breathing in under half an hour. Others can trigger cardiovascular collapse in minutes. Today, we are ranking 10 of the world's deadliest snakes using the fastest credible evidence from real human cases. And no, the black mamba is not number one. Like the video and subscribe to WildWonders. Now, let's start the clock. One rule: no snake has a fixed time to death. Dry bites happen, venom doses vary, and rapid treatment can completely change the outcome. So we are ranking the fastest credible route to a potentially fatal crisis, including respiratory paralysis, apnea, cardiovascular collapse, cardiac arrest, or catastrophic clotting failure. Repeated clinical evidence counts more than an isolated story. These are danger windows, not guaranteed countdowns. Number 10. The boomslang. The boomslang is one of the most deceptive snakes on Earth. It is slender, usually calm, and built for life in trees. Its large eyes make it look almost curious rather than terrifying. It is also rear-fanged, with its venom-delivering teeth positioned farther back in the mouth than the fangs of vipers and cobras. For a long time, that anatomy helped create the false belief that boomslangs were unlikely to kill a person. Then came one of the most famous snakebite cases in history. In 1957, respected herpetologist Carl Patterson Schmidt was bitten on the thumb by a juvenile boomslang. He believed the snake was too young and the bite too minor to be fatal. Instead of immediately seeking intensive treatment, he recorded the symptoms as they developed. Roughly 24 hours later, he died. The venom had caused catastrophic bleeding throughout his body. Boomslang venom attacks the clotting system in a strange and frightening way. It can switch the clotting process on so aggressively that the body begins using up the proteins needed to form stable clots. Think of it like an emergency team spending every last medical supply during the first alarm. When the real disaster arrives, there is nothing left. Once those clotting factors are consumed, the victim may begin bleeding beneath the skin, from the mouth or nose, into the digestive system and inside vital organs. The most dangerous feature is the delay. A victim may remain awake and relatively normal-looking while the chemistry of the blood is quietly collapsing. There may be no dramatic paralysis, no sudden fall, and no obvious sign that the body is losing control of its own bleeding. The boomslang ranks 10th because its fatal progression is usually slower than the snakes ahead. But slower does not mean safer, and the next snake can begin dismantling the clotting system in around the time it takes to watch a movie. Number 9. The saw-scaled vipers. You may hear a saw-scaled viper before you clearly see it. When threatened, the snake pulls its body into tight curves and rubs specially textured scales against each other. The result is a dry, sizzling rasp, almost like water striking a hot metal surface. The snake is often small. Its medical impact is enormous. Saw-scaled vipers live across parts of Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. Their camouflage, defensive behavior, and frequent contact with people make them some of the most medically important venomous snakes in the world. Their venom can trigger severe disruption of the blood clotting system. It may also cause internal bleeding, shock, kidney injury, and, in the worst cases, bleeding inside the brain. In one carefully documented case, blood taken roughly 90 minutes after the bite was already showing extreme clotting failure. The victim's level of fibrinogen, one of the essential building materials for a stable blood clot, had fallen almost to nothing. In other words, the body had burned through a major part of its clotting supply in about an hour and a half. But that does not mean every saw-scaled viper victim dies in 90 minutes. The final fatal complication may take much longer. The victim may deteriorate from bleeding, shock, or organ failure over several hours or even days. That is why this snake remains below the rapid neurotoxic species ahead. Its venom does not simply thin the blood. It can activate clotting so intensely that the system consumes itself. After that, even a small internal injury can become extremely difficult to control. And there is another complication. Saw-scaled vipers are not one identical snake spread across a continent. Different species and populations can produce different venom effects, An antivenom that works well in one region may not work equally well in another. At number 9, the danger is not a perfect stopwatch. It is a rapidly disappearing ability to stop bleeding. Number 8, the death adder. The death adder looks like a viper. It has a broad head, a thick body, and an ambush hunting strategy based on remaining almost perfectly still. Some death adders even move the tip of their tail like a small worm, attracting curious lizards and frogs directly into striking range. But the death adder is not a true viper. It belongs to the same major venomous snake family as cobras, kraits, mambas, and taipans. Its most important systemic weapon is neurotoxicity. Normally, a nerve releases a chemical messenger that tells a muscle to contract. Death adder toxins interfere with that communication. As the failure spreads, the victim may develop drooping eyelids, blurred or double vision, difficulty speaking, trouble swallowing, weakness in the neck, and eventually weakness in the muscles that control breathing. A major Australian clinical study examined 29 definite death adder bites. 14 patients developed systemic envenoming and 12 developed neurotoxicity. The median onset of neurological symptoms was 4 hours, but the fastest onset in the series was only 30 minutes. 2 patients became weak enough to require intubation and mechanical ventilation. 1 needed breathing support for 17 hours. The other needed it for 83. And here is what makes presynaptic neurotoxicity so dangerous. Antivenom can neutralize venom that is still circulating freely in the body. But if toxins have already damaged the nerve endings responsible for releasing chemical signals, removing the remaining venom does not instantly rebuild those damaged structures. The hospital may need to breathe for the patient while the nervous system slowly recovers. So 30 minutes was not a documented time to death. It was the earliest appearance of neurotoxicity in that clinical series. But once the pathway toward respiratory paralysis begins, the emergency can become very serious very quickly. And by the time we reach the final 2 snakes, catastrophic failure will be documented within the length of a short television episode. Number 7. The common krait. The common krait may deliver the easiest deadly bite on this list to miss. It is a nocturnal snake found across much of South Asia. Many bites happen at night, sometimes inside homes, and sometimes while the victim is sleeping close to the floor. The bite may cause very little pain. There may be almost no swelling, and some victims do not clearly remember being bitten at all. They may wake with abdominal pain, heavy eyelids, blurred vision, difficulty speaking, or an unusual weakness that continues spreading through the body. In a large clinical study involving 210 common krait bites, 101 patients became severely envenomed and required mechanical ventilation. The time from the bite to assisted breathing ranged from 30 minutes to 50 hours. The most common time was around 6 hours, and most patients who eventually needed ventilation required it within the first 10 hours. That enormous range shows why no honest snake ranking can use one guaranteed timer. But the 30-minute extreme proves that respiratory failure can begin frighteningly early. Krait venom contains powerful presynaptic neurotoxins. A healthy nerve ending stores tiny packets of chemical messenger and releases them whenever the brain sends a command to a muscle. Certain krait toxins damage that release machinery. The brain may still be sending the order, breathe in, breathe out, but fewer and fewer signals reach the chest muscles. The eyelids weaken, the throat weakens. The neck may no longer support the head. Eventually, the diaphragm can fail. The victim may remain conscious, while the body becomes unable to carry out the most basic command needed for survival. And because the nerve endings themselves may be damaged, recovery can take days, even after antivenom has removed venom that was still circulating. The common krait ranks above the death adder because complete ventilatory support has been required as early as 30 minutes in a large human series. Its greatest advantage is not dramatic speed alone, it is stealth. Number 6. The coastal taipan. The coastal taipan does not attack just one critical system. It can attack several at once. This larger lapid lives in northern and eastern Australia and parts of New Guinea. Serious envenoming can cause neurotoxicity, severe clotting failure, muscle destruction, kidney injury, and in some cases early cardiovascular collapse. A study of 40 confirmed taipan bites found systemic envenoming in 33 patients. 26 developed neurotoxicity. Most developed complete or partial disruption of the clotting system. 13 developed acute kidney injury, and 11 showed evidence of serious muscle damage. That is not one weapon, it is an entire biological arsenal. Early symptoms can begin during the first hour. The victim may experience headache, nausea, abdominal pain, weakness, collapse, or the first signs of descending paralysis. The eyelids droop, vision doubles, speech weakens, swallowing becomes difficult. Then the paralysis can reach the muscles between the ribs and the diaphragm. Coastal taipan venom contains powerful presynaptic neurotoxins. Once those toxins have damaged nerve terminals, antivenom may not immediately reverse the paralysis that is already established. But treatment timing still matters. In clinical data, earlier antivenom was associated with lower rates of neurotoxicity, kidney injury, muscle damage, and intubation. Now we need to interrupt the ranking for one of the biggest snake myths on the internet. The inland taipan is often called the most venomous snake in the world. That title comes mainly from laboratory toxicity tests, usually involving mice. But a mouse toxicity score is not a human death clock. It does not tell us how much venom enters a real bite, how fast the toxins act in a human body, or how often a person reaches a fatal stage. Human inland taipan bites are extremely rare, so there is not enough clinical evidence to rank it confidently by speed. Its absence does not mean it is harmless. A serious inland taipan bite is an extreme medical emergency. It means this countdown is based on documented human outcomes, not an internet slogan. Number 5. The monocled cobra. A cobra bite is expected to look dramatic, severe pain, rapid swelling, a wound that immediately screams danger. The monocled cobra does not always follow that script. Its venom contains powerful postsynaptic neurotoxins. These toxins block the receptors that muscles use to receive instructions from nerves. The nerve sends the chemical message normally, but the muscle's receiver is occupied. It is like a key reaching the correct lock, only to discover that something has already jammed the keyhole. As more receptors become blocked, the victim may develop heavy eyelids, blurred vision, slurred speech, difficulty swallowing, generalized weakness, and eventually respiratory paralysis. In a large Thai study involving monocled cobras and regional spitting cobras, neurological symptoms began at a median of about 1 hour. The fastest recorded onset was 10 minutes. However, the earliest case was not confirmed as a monocled cobra specifically, so 10 minutes should not be presented as a guaranteed monocled cobra timer. What the study did show is that neurotoxicity and the need for ventilatory support were more common after monocled cobra bites than after bites from the spitting cobra species in the same group. Deaths in the study were concentrated among monocled cobra cases, although many resulted from severe infection and complications rather than immediate paralysis. That distinction matters. The 1 hour figure refers to the typical onset of neurological signs, not a universal time to death. The monocled cobra earns 5th place because dangerous paralysis can begin quickly, can progress to the need for mechanical ventilation, and may appear before the bite site looks as severe as the internal emergency. The closer we get to number 1, the gap between seems okay and cannot breathe becomes brutally small. Number 4. The king cobra. The king cobra is the longest venomous snake on Earth. Exceptional individuals can exceed 5 meters, allowing the snake to raise a large portion of its body off the ground and look an adult human almost directly in the chest. Its scientific name means snake eater, and that is exactly what it is. Much of its diet consists of other snakes, including venomous species, but its position in this ranking is not based only on size. it is based on dose. Drop for drop, king cobra venom is not always as toxic in laboratory tests as the venom of some smaller cobras. But a large king cobra can deliver an enormous quantity. That massive venom dose can overwhelm the neuromuscular system and produce rapidly descending paralysis. The face weakens, speech becomes difficult, swallowing begins to fail. Then the muscles responsible for breathing stop responding. Medical reviews describe the possibility of fatal respiratory paralysis in roughly 30 minutes without resuscitation in an extreme bite. There are also reports of patients requiring mechanical ventilation around that time. But the human evidence base is limited because confirmed king cobra bites are relatively uncommon. That means 30 minutes is best understood as an extreme possibility, not a typical outcome. A huge snake, a large venom dose, and an untreated victim can create a terrifyingly narrow survival window. But the smaller number of well-documented cases prevents the king cobra from ranking higher. That is the key difference between biological possibility and repeated clinical evidence. A single dramatic case can show what venom might do. A larger patient series shows how consistently it does it. From this point on, every snake has credible evidence of catastrophic respiratory or cardiovascular failure inside roughly 30 minutes. Number 3. The black mamba. The black mamba may have the most fearsome reputation of any snake on Earth. It is long, alert, extremely fast-moving when escaping danger, and capable of delivering multiple rapid bites if cornered. Its name does not describe the color of its body, which is usually gray, olive, or brown. The darkness is inside its mouth. When threatened, the snake opens that black interior as a warning. Serious envenoming can produce tingling, sweating, visual disturbance, slurred speech, drooping eyelids, excessive saliva, muscle twitching, and rapidly increasing weakness. Then the paralysis descends. The face and eyes weaken first. Speech and swallowing deteriorate. The victim may become unable to control saliva. Finally, the muscles that pull air into the lungs begin to fail. Symptoms have been reported within 10 to 15 minutes, and severe respiratory failure can develop within about an hour. But one extraordinary medical case progressed even faster. A professional snake handler was bitten while working with a black mamba. He was initially able to walk and speak, but quickly became dizzy. He reached the hospital less than 20 minutes after the bite. By the time he arrived, he had no pulse and was not breathing on his own. Doctors began resuscitation, intubated him, and used advanced life support. He did not technically die in 20 minutes. He suffered cardiorespiratory arrest in under 20 minutes and was declared dead several days later. That difference is scientifically important. The case demonstrates how quickly black mamba venom can push the body to the edge of death, but it does not prove that every bite follows the same timeline. Many victims survive when antivenom, airway management, and mechanical ventilation are provided rapidly. The black mamba ranks third because its fastest sub-20-minute evidence comes from an extreme individual case. Number 2 is supported by multiple patients who stopped breathing within 30 minutes. Number 2. The Philippine cobra. The Philippine cobra does not need the black mamba's reputation or the king cobra's enormous body. It needs speed. In a landmark human study, researchers examined 39 patients envenomed by Philippine cobras. 38 developed neurotoxicity, 19 developed complete respiratory paralysis, and in 3 separate patients, apnea, meaning complete cessation of breathing, occurred within 30 minutes of the bite. 2 patients died. Both were already close to death when they reached the hospital. This is some of the strongest species-specific timing evidence anywhere in the ranking. Not a prediction based on venom yield, not a story repeated through generations. Multiple human victims whose breathing stopped inside half an hour. And the danger could be nearly invisible at the skin. 14 systemically envenomed patients in the study had no local swelling at all. A victim could therefore be moving toward total respiratory paralysis, while the bite site looked surprisingly minor. The mechanism is brutally efficient. The The nerve releases acetylcholine, the chemical messenger normally used to activate a muscle. But Philippine cobra toxins occupy the receptors on the muscle cell. The message arrives. The muscle can no longer receive it. When enough receptors in the diaphragm and chest muscles are blocked, breathing stops. The Philippine cobra can also spit venom toward the eyes, but that is a different medical emergency. Spat venom can cause severe eye injury. The rapid whole-body paralysis in this ranking comes from venom injected through a bite. The Philippine cobra ranks above the black mamba because the sub-30-minute endpoint was not limited to one extraordinary case. Apnea was directly documented in 3 patients, but it still does not take number 1, because our final snake group can produce a different kind of disaster. There may be no gradual descent into paralysis. The victim may simply collapse. Number 1. Australian brown snakes, led by the eastern brown snake. The fastest entry in this evidence-based ranking has no hood, no enormous fangs, and no giant body. Australian brown snakes are relatively slender. Their bites can cause little immediate pain or swelling, and the eastern brown snake can vary from pale tan to almost black, making colour an unreliable way to identify it. What gives this group first place is an exceptionally fast clinical syndrome. Early cardiovascular collapse associated with severe venom-induced consumption coagulopathy. In one prospective study of confirmed brown snake bites, 37 patients developed collapse or dangerously low blood pressure. 7 suffered cardiac arrest and 6 died. For 19 patients, researchers knew the approximate time between the bite and collapse. The median was 30 minutes. The reported range began at only 2 minutes. 2 minutes was not the typical result. It was the shortest reported interval in that series. But even a median of 30 minutes represents an extremely narrow emergency window. A much larger Australian study later analysed more than 1,200 cases of snake envenoming. 157 patients collapsed. Brown snakes caused 103 of those cases, roughly 2/3 of every collapse in the study. Across the timed collapse cases, the median interval was 20 minutes. Half occurred between roughly 15 and 30 minutes, and the overall range began at 5 minutes. Most collapses happened before the patient reached a hospital. Dozens were followed by cardiac arrest. Others were followed by seizures or apnea. And 25 of the patients who collapsed died. Those arrest and death totals apply to the entire collapse group, not only brown snakes, but brown snakes were by far the leading cause of the syndrome. Now for the scientific correction. Brown snake venom does not simply turn all the victim's blood solid. Its powerful procoagulant toxins activate the clotting system and rapidly consume the factors the body needs to build stable clots. After those factors are depleted, the victim may become dangerously unable to control bleeding. But researchers are still studying exactly why some victims collapse so suddenly. The coagulopathy is strongly associated with the collapse, but the immediate trigger may also involve profound widening of blood vessels, a sudden crash in blood pressure, effects on the heart, or a combination of mechanisms. Whatever the exact pathway, the clinical pattern is clear. It happens early. It frequently happens outside the hospital. It can be the first obvious sign that the bite is severe. And brown snakes produce this syndrome more often than the other major Australian snake groups studied. That is why Australian brown snakes take number 1. Not because every bite is fatal. Some bites inject no venom. Some inject too little to cause systemic illness. Even among confirmed envenomings, most patients in the large study did not collapse. And not because 2 minutes is a normal survival time. It is not. They rank first because repeated human clinical data show that a brown snake bite can be followed by catastrophic cardiovascular failure with extraordinary speed. The black mamba has the greater legend. The king cobra is much larger. The inland taipan may win certain laboratory toxicity tests. But when the question is how quickly a snake has been documented pushing real human patients toward fatal collapse, Australian brown snakes are almost impossible to beat. So the final ranking is this. Number 10, the boomslang. Number 9, the saw-scaled vipers. Number 8, the death adder. Number 7, the common krait. Number 6, the coastal taipan. Number 5, the monocled cobra. Number 4, the king cobra. Number 3, the black mamba. Number 2, the Philippine cobra. And number 1, Australian brown snakes, led by the eastern brown. The biggest lesson is that most venomous, responsible for the most deaths, and fastest to cause a fatal crisis are not the same title. A boomslang destroys the body's ability to control bleeding. A krait damages the nerve endings that activate muscles. A cobra blocks the receptors those muscles use to receive instructions. And a brown snake can be followed by sudden cardiovascular collapse before the victim reaches a hospital. Modern treatment can rewrite every one of these timelines. Antivenom can neutralize venom that is still available in the body. Mechanical ventilation can keep a paralyzed victim alive while nerve and muscle function recover. And immediate cardiopulmonary resuscitation can determine the outcome when collapse becomes cardiac arrest. Any suspected venomous snakebite is a medical emergency. Move away from the snake. Keep the victim as still as possible. Contact emergency services immediately. Remove rings or other tight objects. Follow the official snakebite instructions used in that country or region. Do not cut the wound. Do not try to suck out the venom. Do not apply ice, chemicals, electric shocks, or an improvised tight tourniquet. And never wait for symptoms just because the bite looks small. If this ranking surprised you, like the video, subscribe to WildWonders, and tell us in the comments which animal group should face the ranking scale next.